Have you ever stared down a breast operative report and just felt completely overwhelmed by this massive, intimidating wall of text? Well, you are absolutely not alone. Medical coders deal with these incredibly dense surgical narratives every single day. Honestly, trying to extract exact billable actions from a surgeon's notes, it can feel a bit like looking for a needle in a haystack. But in this explainer, we're going to change all of that. We're taking that chaotic wall of text and turning it into a clear, ironclad, entirely defensible coding sequence. So let's dive right in and strip the anxiety straight out of these reports.
Here is the clinical pathway we'll be taking today. First, decoding the operative report. 2. Establishing our procedure and imaging guidance. 3. Confirming biopsy status. 4. Determining quantity and add-on codes. 5. A full mock walkthrough. And finally, 6. A quick 4-step recap.
All right, let's kick things off with decoding the operative report.
Now, we are isolating a very specific and honestly a highly scrutinized sequence inside the integumentary section of your CPT manual, specifically codes 19281 through 19298. You know that massive wall of text we talked about? It is actively hiding your exact billable actions. And the stakes here are incredibly high, because improper extraction leads directly to unbundling and audit failures. No one wants that. So right now, gather your tools. You're going to want your current coding manual, a mock operative report, and I highly recommend grabbing 3 different colored highlighters. Being organized from the jump is literally half the battle. Really quickly, just to set a foundational baseline for any students or CPT exam candidates joining us today, CPT stands for Current Procedural Terminology. It's the standardized medical code set we use across the entire industry to report medical, surgical, and diagnostic procedures. Think of it as the universal language of medical billing.
And here we go, our ultimate solution. This right here is a repeatable 4-step decision tree that's going to be your best friend. Step 1, identify the procedure. Step 2, lock in the imaging guidance. Step 3, check the biopsy status. And Step 4, determine the quantity. By strictly applying this extraction process, you pull out exactly what you need without making an error, leaving all that chaotic surgical fluff behind.
Moving right along to establishing our procedure and imaging guidance, which is basically the structural foundation of your claim.
Step 1 demands that we identify the exact procedure type. We have to immediately differentiate localization device placement. We're talking wires, clips, or pellets found in codes 19281 to 19288 from something entirely different like brachytherapy. Brachytherapy is internal radiation therapy where a radioactive catheter is placed directly inside the breast tissue. That uses codes 19296 through 19298. So the moment you spot terms like localization wire in your report, boom, you instantly rule out brachytherapy and narrow your focus exclusively down to that 19281 to 19288 range.
Okay, so you've got your procedure locked in. Step 2 requires scanning the report to figure out the imaging guidance. The surgeon is going to explicitly specify exactly how they navigated the placement. Usually, they're using one of these 4 distinct modalities: stereotactic, mammography, ultrasound, or MRI. Your job? Hunt down exactly which one they used.
Now, listen closely, because this rule right here is absolutely crucial. This is exactly where coders trip up and fail audits. You must never bill the imaging guidance separately for these localization procedures. Let me repeat that. The CPT manual dictates that the imaging is inherently bundled directly into the primary placement code. Never, ever report a separate radiological supervision or interpretation code alongside these. If you get this foundational rule right, you easily avoid those frustrating claim denials that happen when bundled services get improperly split up.
Next up, confirming biopsy status. This is your mandatory compliance safeguard.
For Step 3, ask yourself this one critical question as you read through the report. Was tissue actually removed for diagnostic purposes? You have to choose between procedures performed with a biopsy and those performed without a biopsy. So review the surgeon's procedure summary really carefully. Was the placement strictly for pre-surgical localization, or did they actually extract a tissue sample? Because misinterpreting this one tiny detail easily leads to a massive compliance issue down the road.
Because if you guess wrong, you are looking straight at unbundling. This is the non-compliant practice of using multiple distinct codes for parts of a procedure that are legally required to be billed under a single comprehensive code. Confirming the biopsy status isn't just a suggestion. It serves as a mandatory safeguard against unbundling audits. So don't just guess. You have to ensure the surgical report explicitly supports your choice.
All right, on to the final piece of our framework, determining quantity and add-on codes.
So step 4. We have a very strict hierarchy when it comes to coding multiple devices. When multiple localization devices are placed using the exact same imaging modality, your billing has to be split. The first initial device, or lesion, dictates your primary code. Then, every subsequent device that gets placed under that same unified imaging modality triggers an add-on code. You'll actually see this visually marked in your CPT manual with a plus symbol indented right below the primary code. You have to split them up like this to accurately capture the full scope of the surgeon's work.
Okay, let's put all of this into practice with a mock report walkthrough.
Imagine we just took our imaginary highlighters to a really dense, overwhelming operative report. By strictly sticking to our 4-step framework, we bypass all the surgical fluff and extract only these exact, defensible billing variables. Ready? Step 1. Procedure is a localization wire. Step 2. Imaging is ultrasound guidance. Step 3. Biopsy status confirms absolutely no tissue was removed. It was strictly for localization. And Step 4. Quantity reveals 2 distinct lesions, which means 2 separate wires were placed.
Now, taking our extracted variables, we flip open our CPT manual. That first wire dictates our primary code base, so we're looking for ultrasound localization without a biopsy for that first lesion.
And boom! There it is. Code 19285. Securing this primary procedure perfectly locks in the structural foundation of our claim.
But wait, remember our quantity step? The surgeon actually placed 2 wires. Since that second wire was placed under the exact same ultrasound guidance, it triggers our secondary add-on rule. Remember, every subsequent device requires a distinct add-on code,
which naturally unveils our subsequent add-on code, plus 19286. By mastering the specific hierarchical relationship between primary and add-on codes under unified imaging, you are guaranteeing full compliance and maximizing appropriate billing.
It's kind of like magic, right? We literally took an overwhelming, chaotic surgical narrative, applied a rigid extraction process, and ended up with a beautiful, perfectly clean, and entirely compliant 2-code sequence of 19285 and 19286.
Let's do a quick 4-step recap to lock this all in as your ultimate shield against audits.
Always, always follow this strict path. Step 1. Isolate the procedure type. Step 2. Lock in that bundled imaging guidance. Step 3. Confirm the biopsy status to absolutely prevent unbundling. And Step 4. Count your device quantity to properly assign your primary and add-on codes. If you stick to this clinical pathway, you'll easily strip the chaos out of any operative report that crosses your desk.
Now, before we wrap up this explainer, I've got a quick challenge to help you practice your new framework. What happens to our final code sequence if we alter just one variable? Imagine swapping out that ultrasound guidance for stereotactic guidance, which, by the way, is a super cool technique that uses X-rays taken from 2 different angles to pinpoint the exact 3-dimensional location of an abnormality. So, how does that one swap change your primary and add-on base? Grab your coding manual, run the 4 steps, and find out. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy coding.